connecting rod T-wrench. I can't say as I've ever used it, but there it is. That's similar to these. All right, same sort of idea. Okay, and we already looked at the rotor puller. This right here, we're using that same tool we used to pull a rotor for a different size. That's why they had these three different frames. They pull different size rotors.
Why is the catalog showing them again? Are they going by different motors?
It's a different motor, yeah.
Okay.
All right. It is. And then the needle bearing jig for connecting rod, that's been replaced by those pushes I showed you. Now, this right here, this piston ring compressor for like a Mark 20 is invaluable.
Absolutely.
You know, you've got the whole connecting rod assembled in the crankcase with your pistons, and you have to put the jug down. And this allows you to do that. It allows you to compress the rings, and there's a number of different ones. There's a smaller diameter one right there.
That's your smaller outboards.
Right.
Indispensable. Because you can't get your little fingers in there and squeeze your rings.
So what do you do if you don't have one of those?
Call
Lincoln?
We'll see this in just a second, but this installs the end cap when you've got the crankshaft installed in the crankcase in a Mark 20 or earlier. You have to get the connecting rod cap underneath through the case, and you put the connecting rod cap, end cap, right in here, and you pull it up into the rod. And of course you've got all your bearings all sitting there too. So this grabs it pretty firmly and works quite well. It makes life possible.
so much easier.
Yes.
I mean, you can try to use a magnet and screwdriver and what have you, but that is way better way to do it. Really is.
Okay, next thing we're looking at is propeller torque adapter tool. This would be used on KF7, KG7, and the Super Silent 6 is another one for them. What this does is you freeze the flywheel and you turn this with a torque wrench, and you keep squeezing the nut down. It's a whole series of fiber and steel washers, and you want to have it to a certain torque. So you keep tightening it to get the right amount of torque so it'll slip. This is before they had rubber slip clutches. They did these things. And you run into it. The KG7 has a whole lot of them in there. Same thing. You'd use one of these tools and keep tightening the nut to hold that propeller on until you got the appropriate torque. And that's the amount of slippage. They don't want it to go too far because then the
it doesn't
teeth
slip
will get
anymore.
broken. Right, exactly. So here we are with basically the same tools all over again. Ball bearing puller tool, flywheel holder wrench, which they replaced with a strap wrench, piston pin tool, and bearing mandrel tool. And when we hit something new, again, here's one of these center main bearing ones. What that did is it allowed you to press the crankshaft into the crankcase for a KG7, a KG4, and you wouldn't spring the crankshaft because you've got bell cranks. And I use a nut and a bolt, and I unscrew. I have the bolt cut off so it'll just fit into the bell crank, and then I expand the nut until it's in there good and tight, and then when I press the thing together I won't spring it. That's just another method for doing it. I'll show you what they look like. There's a bunch of them right there. Just,
Oh, you gotta take them out of the back.
all right, well, okay, I'll open the goddamn thing and take it out for you.
Hasn't been open since 1972.
No, I used them before. See, there are different ones for different cranks. But that's what I use so it won't spring. I put them in both, and then you can take them out once you've got the crankshaft into the crankcase.
Who's back from the attic?
Okay.
What do you got?
The bore right here in this series of engines, all the way up through the Mark 25, that's a press fit for the reed cage. Okay. So when you're pushing this thing in, and you leave it unspacered, I put those spacers right in here. All right, I put those bolt spacers right in there.
Oh, I see what you're trying to do.
And I make sure they're good and tight, and it allows you to press this in without ruining the crankshaft, springing it.
For those who don't have a wood stove in their garage,
Yes. Heat it up.
That's a good
and
idea.
freeze it.
yeah,
The
leave it
missus's
outside.
freezer, and then the
Crank
the
outside.
stove works very, very well too if you can get away with it. If she's going off for the day, you can heat this up in the stove and you can put that in the freezer.
What'd you cook? It stunk the house. You have a grease pot.
Honey, I'll empty the dishwasher.
Let's see. Water pump cover tool, right there. That's for Quicksilver lower units. And I actually have the original one right here. That's the original cover tool, and you put the pins, which ain't worth much, they bend. And there's also a collar for spacing out different diameter shafts. I've got 2 of them, and then there's one of the pins right there, and I use bolts, hardened bolts, and you stick them in the holes of the water pump cover, and you can unscrew it. Right, and this is what the later ones looked like. This would have been something, if you could still get it today, it would look like that, but it's the same unit. I'm sure the cost of machining that thing was quickly discontinued.
Well, I'm pretty sure K-Keefer had the money.
Well, he might have, but he, like everybody else, I think he liked to.
He wasn't charitable.
Right. Okay, so let's see, where are we here? I think we've covered propeller shaft tool, gear housing, pin, collar, prop shaft. Nothing new until we get here to drive shift shaft and water pump cover tool. Okay, here we go again. The cover tools are, you use either this one right here, which has got pins for the different covers, or you use these for some of the automatic transmission cover tools, and you use these also. These are for the full gear shift Mark 20, and then the Mark 55, and so on up to the Merc 500.
And you like to use these for installing the cover, not for removing the cover.
Pretty much, yeah. I'll remove a cover that I know is going to come off if I'm trying to.
Which is really
shim
rare.
If it's one that I put on, it'll probably come off good.
Yeah, it could. That could be, David. That could be. Okay. Anything in here that's new? Gear case cover tool. We've gone through the connecting rod holder and the piston ring compressor. Center main bearing removal tool. I'm not sure what that is. I don't think. Yeah, there's the guide. Goes on the end of that shaft. This right here, I think, is probably the replacement for that. That's what you would use for putting that, I think, that seal maybe in the crankcase. I don't know. I've never used it, so I really don't know what it does, but that's it.
Good thing you have one.
Anything